Hello and welcome to Archives and Records Simplified. So a quick word about these videos. These videos are aimed at people looking for basic knowledge about archives and records, and this could honestly apply to anyone. You may be a student that's looking to undertake the Archivist and Records Management course. You may be a librarian that's been asked to work with some archives. You might be a digitisation manager who wants to know more about the collections and the material they're digitising, or you may just have a general interest in archives and records. This is a topic which I think will intersect with many industries, and the idea of these videos is to be as open and as usable for as many people as possible. The vast majority of videos in this channel will be less than 15 minutes, but some of them will get more complex in certain parts. Sources and further reading will always be posted at the end of the video. And also, I would just like to add, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the comments below. Or if you have any requests, if there's any topics you would like me to make another short video about, please also feel more than free to mention them. I'd be delighted to learn. A quick word about me. I'm an archivist based in London. You can look at my LinkedIn profile here. And lastly, I apologise for my thick accent. I realise if you're not Scottish, you might be struggling a little bit to understand me. Therefore, there'll be a full transcript posted in the description at the end of each video. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the channel and you find this of use. Also, if you find these videos useful, I would be really grateful if you could like and subscribe and possibly hit the bell button as well. Thanks. Okay, so this video is about dissertation advice and I'm going to give you a few lessons from my experience. So a quick overview, my own thesis was about the lack of women's football archives in Scotland, and it was the final step in obtaining my master's. You'll find that writing a thesis, I think, is a common part of most master's programmes, and if you're either on the course, then this video is really relevant to you, but perhaps if you're thinking of undertaking the course and you're curious about what a thesis or what a dissertation is about, then this also might be quite helpful. I got a really good grade for this piece of work, and I personally feel it developed a lot of really important skills. And I think my best advice overall is to try see your thesis as an opportunity more so than an obligation or a task. You'll honestly get so few chances in your professional career to spend 2 to 3 months studying something that you've chosen yourself. Often you're working on projects that are assigned to you or that are dictated by the job market. So, this is really is your opportunity to make a statement or to pursue an interest that you've developed and identified. Okay, so first of all, when it comes to choosing a topic, I would really recommend choosing something that you find interesting, especially if you're going to be studying it for several months. Secondly, I think there's some merit in selecting a topic you have some knowledge of. This could be especially relevant if your background is in a niche subject or you have quite a specific undergraduate degree. And one other piece of advice I would give is to try and think about setting out to solve a problem or find a solution to a task, as this can help you narrow the scope immensely. For me personally, my undergraduate thesis was about sport, and this was something I was quite passionate about. I also developed an interest in representation and demonstrating the power of archives, so my final thesis topic was a really easy selection in the end. So for me, this was a topic that I had real passion for and interest, and I'd honestly say that over the length and breadth, that actually turned out to be one of the most valuable parts. Okay, so some areas of interest. Everyone will have different interests and passions, and but that said, I can recommend a few general areas where I personally feel there's scope for discussion. So for example, GDPR is still relatively new, and I know that this is a hot topic for many, as is copyright. Digital preservation is a massive area of interest, especially in considering ways that we can make it more practical. And I would say that there's a definite demand for archivists with a STEM background, and something in this area could be really fruitful. Equality and diversity are also very topical in the sector, especially relating to gender and race. Another area I personally feel is really worth considering is environmentalism, especially in the age when we should be recycling more and preserving less. And lastly, there was a debate at the Oxford Union a few years ago about the right to be forgotten, which discusses the ethics of keeping information about people, and it was an interesting discussion, and I threw that one in as a bonus. But honestly, you be best choosing something that you're passionate about and interested in. These are just some random examples to get you going if you have no ideas at all. Okay, so developing a question in early research. So I would personally start with the course content when looking for inspiration, and perhaps the recommended readings before looking further afield at the more niche writings of others. I would encourage thinking outside of the box where possible and taking knowledge from a variety of places where you can. So that might be YouTube videos, it might be lectures you're attending, it could honestly be anything. And I would also say try be as original as possible. If you can make your dissertation more practical and perhaps develop some vocational skills in the way, then all the better. So for example, if you did do something relating to GDPR, that could really help you develop a set of knowledge, or it could help you develop skills that become really relevant to a future job. And it might even be something that you could use as part of your application. And when you first graduate, you tend to find that you're looking at jobs who often want candidates to have a certain amount of experience. And obviously that is a sort of the catch-22, that how do you get experience without experience? Your dissertation might actually be an opportunity to develop skills that you otherwise wouldn't. Okay, setting targets and making progress. So for me, a really useful step was setting out a skeleton and chapter structure, and that also really helped me plan out my time and word count. This meant that I could write so many words each month and break the work down into smaller parts. Although it's good to have an idea before you start, I personally recommend being open to changing your mind as you discover more evidence. For me, my thesis was essentially twofold. I suspected there was a lack of accessible archival material relating to women's football in Scotland, and I wanted to say why this was an issue. This really helped me sharpen my focus immensely. Okay, so personally, I find it easier to edit than write from scratch. And I also think it could help your confidence a lot to have something written down sooner rather than later. You really don't want to get to maybe 1 or 2 months in and you've still got a zero word count. I would always personally recommend staying in the lane that you've chosen unless evidence forces you down another path. And that's also honestly okay. Your tutor's advice will be really valuable, and I'd recommend listening as much as possible. And also try stay in touch with your classmates who'll be having the same experience as you. And if you have any questions, there's some fantastic resources such as the NRA listserv. And I've noticed that the listserv tends to be quite reactive to students who've got dissertation questions. And it can include all sorts of theories and questions. Some people are maybe looking for participants to take part in a survey or anything at all. So don't be shy about asking. I don't think anyone would look down on you or think that it's a really silly question. I think the idea of these sort of listservs and these resources is to encourage conversation and to ask questions. Lastly, and this is just some more basic advice, I'd also say just remember to take care of yourself and ensure good mental health where possible. For me personally, I really loved writing my dissertation and it was great fun, but I do remember that some of the people I knew in the course found it really, really stressful. And it's honestly okay that if you do fall into that category, that you remember to ask for help or you just remember to take it easy. If you're doing this in a university, which is highly likely, then there'll probably be resources available to help you out. So as I say, it's a very basic thing to say, but just remember to generally take care of yourself because it's a long project and it's as designed to be grueling. It would be very strange if you didn't find it challenging, at least in some respect. Okay, so the final 2 weeks and the end result. Lastly, I would say as you approach the end of your work, you don't want to be writing anything new or uncovering new and essay changing information. Ideally, you want to spend the last week or so proofreading, checking your references, and generally making sure everything's okay. I personally found adding references took a lot longer than I expected, and I really recommend using a software. Also, just think of the bureaucracy as well. So my thesis involved interviewing people and capturing their experiences. about women's football. And one of the things I had to do for that was have consent forms example from data subjects. Now, this actually was before GDPR regulations, so in many respects, I would say that the regulations will probably be tighter than it was then. It did take me about a month or so to get ethical approval to do this. So just generally speaking, make sure that you're keeping good administration throughout the project and that everything's in place heading into the last 2 weeks. Maybe what might be helpful is try bring your personal deadline forward a bit and treat that as your official deadline, and then you have an extra week or two to tweak it and to make it a lot better. And maybe the last piece of advice actually I give, and there's no bullet point representing this, is that once it's completed, I know it's hard, but I'd personally recommend forgetting all about it. You'll find that you sleep a lot better. Okay, so that covers just about everything. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to post them below. It's difficult to offer some reading for this, given it's that I've relied very heavily on my own personal experiences. But that said, there are some general resources here for people that gives advice on how to write a dissertation. So otherwise, thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy the video. And if you are a student that's just about to start your dissertation, or even if you're at that stage where you're choosing a topic, then I wish you the very best of luck. And if you find these videos useful, I would be very grateful if you could like and subscribe and possibly hit the bell button as well. I'm hoping to do a lot more of these videos in the coming months and year, and liking, subscribing and hitting the bell button will make it more likely that you'll see updates in your feed.